Good morning, everybody. It is another week. 21 is still here. It hasn't gone anywhere, but it is getting to be pretty exciting, just like 2020 was. So,
No, it is not just like 2020, Brenda. Shut your mouth.
no, I didn't say it was like 2020. I said it was exciting like 2020. There's a difference.
No, but I don't want any excitement that is like 2020 excitement. Let's have like, I don't know, what was a nice good year?
1980,
2006?
1988.
I have no idea what happened in 1988, but it couldn't have been worse.
Well, that is exactly the reason why you can't remember, is because nothing catastrophic happened in 88 that you can't remember. So there you go.
Perfect.
You're capable of remembering. Works out that way.
Mhm.
That is so funny. Okay, guys. So today we're going to be talking about something kind of fun. And we needed a little bit of brevity and levity. So we decided to look at a couple of things and entertainment eyes mistakes that are made in the media and with companies.
And with companies. And it turns out that big companies, small companies, they can all make mistakes. So if you make a mistake, you are not alone.
No, you are not. So would you like to kick it off, or would you like me to kick it off?
Why don't you kick it off?
Okay. So we are right now roughly about 6.7% unemployment, which is awesome, which means that unemployment is coming down. And it reached its peak during 2020 at 10%, which is where we were back in 2008. So we are making massive strides and massive shifts and not having unemployment anymore, which is, well, not a high level of unemployment anymore. But one of the biggest predictors that the media really, 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 really got wrong. And this is a really great example as to trust but verify, or the combination of that plus don't necessarily buy into everything that you hear, because there's always more to the story. And this one was the Washington Post back in June had written an article that said economists were predicting that we were going to hit 20% unemployment, and that did not happen. That was absolutely huge.
And people make decisions based on these predictions. And this is something that I'm not an economist, and Brenda, to the best of my knowledge, is not an economist either.
Not that I looked.
I did study economics in college. I mean, I was political science, but econ is a very big part of that, but it's been a long time. But when you jump to these conclusions, you really need to understand what goes before. And oftentimes media and reporters, and this is something I consider me a part of, they may not do the due diligence before they hit publish. And some of those things can be quite embarrassing to turn around and bite you in the behind, because you didn't understand the assumptions and you didn't read the whole paper. You looked at the abstract and then wrote your article based on that. And that happens. And this is, I'm not saying that the Washington Post reporter did that with this situation, because I haven't studied the data either. But there needs to be some caution and some digging before we jump to conclusions and before we make business decisions.
Right.
And this is something that I've been talking about a lot lately, that, when it comes to, firing people, you don't just make an instant decision without the investigation first.
Absolutely. And in this case, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Switzerland and the United States were just stepping on each other here. And in this kind of information that goes out, not like she was saying, people make decisions based off of this. Well, companies make decisions off of their future off of this. They start looking at like, okay, well, if economists are doing this, and then they lead something to a viable report that may not necessarily be correct, you're going to have people that are looking at this wondering, how do we do this? And they may be companies may actually be starting to put together a reduction in force plan because they're they're anticipating something like this, and there are people that do that, only to come to find out that they just wasted a lot of time preparing for something that did not happen or was not necessarily reported well because it's sensationalism. And that's a lot of time lost when you got a company that's trying to figure out how do they stay viable and visible and alive.
And it really emphasizes to me how important it is to slow down. I mean, we talk a lot about agility,
Mm-hmm.
and we've talked a lot, as long as we're talking about 2020, companies had to be very, very agile in 2020 because everything changed. And
Rapidly.
it's good that you can do it, but you also need to slow down. And there was a big thing in the news last week about GitHub. And GitHub fired an employee on January 6th, which, if you were hiding under a rock and missed, that was the day that the protesters kind of stormed the Capitol building. And this employee wrote on Slack, "Stay safe, homies, Nazis are about." And GitHub fired him for using the word Nazi in the Slack channel. And well, officially they fired him, citing vague patterns of behavior. But what they didn't do is investigate before they fired him. And suddenly this is in the news, and everyone's like, what in the heck? And employment lawyer John Hyman says that there was a guy among the seditious mob wearing a Camp Auschwitz shirt, and the mob was trying to overthrow a democratic election. That seems to be pretty factual, that somebody wearing a Camp Auschwitz shirt was a Nazi, and people really responded. But GitHub, to its credit, didn't dig in their heels. Instead, they hired an outside investigator, which is what they should have done first, but they didn't. They hired an outside investigator who looked at what happened, and they released this message. And they said, on Friday, January 8th, we separated with an employee. Later that day and over the weekend, employees raised concerns about the circumstances of the separation. We took these concerns seriously. On Monday, January 11th, we engaged an outside investigator to conduct an independent investigation. On the evening of Friday, January 15th, the investigation revealed significant errors of judgment and procedure. Our head of HR has taken personal accountability and resigned yesterday morning, Saturday, January 16th. In light of these findings, we immediately reversed the decision to separate with the employee and are in communication with his representatives. To the employee, we wish to say publicly, we sincerely apologize. And so while they made a big oops in acting too fast and not following their procedures, they did go ahead and investigate and then reversed their decision, and the head of HR stepped down.
Yep.
That's a pretty good trying to fix your oops, but how much easier would it have been to conduct the investigation first instead of panicking, which is what they did?
Yeah. And if anybody's seasoned in HR, you investigate. You don't act like that. I mean, could it have been against their social media policy? Yeah, sure, it could have, but still look into it. I mean, you still need to ask the questions. You still need to get your facts together. And unfortunately that happens,
And there's always the option to suspend someone while you investigate. Yeah. And if you do that, no court is going to slap your hand and say, how dare you wait 3 days to fire someone? Even if it's a sexual harassment case, you can suspend and get the alleged perpetrator off the premises.
I want to, a lot of people use suspension though as a way of penalizing employees. And, I put them on, you can refer to it as an admin leave too. I mean, really, suspension I just see so many people, like, yeah, well, we put them on suspension, to penalize them, we wouldn't let them pay or
Right.
whatever. But you know what? Would you please stop? This is work from home. You put them on an administrative leave and you can pay it or unpay it. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that controls you. You can allow the employee to use their PTO, or you can just pay them, because as a company, you are the one dictating what's happening. And it actually works in your favor, to be honest with you, if you have to terminate somebody for reasons like this. If you put them on a paid administrative leave, which means that the administration is the one that's controlling the circumstances of what's going on. Somebody wants to go out. Can you tell? Then this is what he does. He annoys the heck out of me until I take him out. This is and there you go. There's right there. Anyway, if it turns out that you terminated them and they come back and they try and make a claim against the company saying that you treated them unfairly, it's like, well, we put you, while we were investigating, we didn't stop the employee's pay. Even though we didn't have them working that day, we still continued to compensate them for the days that they weren't working. And that actually is a really good strategy, because it's one more thing to show that you are reasonable as an employer and not unreasonable to where the employee can make an attempt to create problems for you.
I think that's a really good point, that I generally have been an advocate of, we put you on an unpaid leave if we end up terminating you, but if we clear you, then we'll pay you for that time. But I can see your point is that if you just make it an unconditional paid leave, there's no way that's not going to look good in court.
Exactly.
And whatever it costs to pay someone for the week that it takes you to do the investigation is less than your court appearance.
I mean, absolutely.
It is less.
And the one thing that leaders don't like is they don't like succumbing to the fact that they're paying an employee for doing something either unethical or wrong, while they're investigating. They really have a hard time swallowing that pill. And I remind them, it's like, listen, you don't have to do it, but I strongly advise that you do, for exactly the reasons that I just quoted. But, just put it to end that it has nothing to do with whether this person did something unethical and you're compensating them for it. You're protecting a much bigger picture. And that's a real hard thing for them to let go of. It really is. I've seen it so many times.
I've seen it too, where we have this this panic and this sense of fairness.
Right.
And there's sometimes where fairness isn't fiscally responsible.
Right.
And, sometimes this is something that I always caution people when you read in the news that a company has settled out of court and they're like, oh, well, then they must be guilty. No. It's so expensive to go to court.
Yeah. Yeah. Some companies will just chuck it up as the cost of doing business. Like they'll make their point to a point, and then when they have to do when legal has to do their cost analysis on what they think that this could do and how much that could be, then the company needs to make a determination. It's like, well, it's just the cost of doing business to walk away and utilize, their liability insurance, or does it make sense to keep fighting for something that is, that important? So.
Yeah. And so, you can make mistakes. The question is how you recover from them.
Right.
And some things, the head of HR in the situation stepped down. Yep. Of course, I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I don't know whether that was reasonable or not.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Never know.
We'll never know. And I have another story about a company that made a mistake. This is an unnamed company. Um, and I found this on Reddit, but all HR and payroll people can cringe and hide under their desks for this story. And it was, my employer sent everyone's W-2 to every employee. Yes, you heard it right. I can't make this up. I'm currently looking at a non-secured PDF with every employee's W-2, including personal
Oh my gosh.
bonuses and social security numbers. And Brenda's face.
Wow.
Yeah. When I read that, my jaw just dropped. Like, this is a situation where I'm 99.9% sure it was an error. This wasn't done on purpose. This was undoubtedly an error, but holy crap, what an error.
It's a bad one to make. But do you have do you have something to say?
Na Koa says, this video show is not about dogs. Why is it not about
Here's his Smurfy blue paw when he found my highlighter. Right there. There you go. Blue.
no? Good doggy.
You know, we did go out before we did this today, by the way. Apparently
No.
it wasn't enough. Oh my God,
Wasn't enough.
he's pulling my arm. I'm telling you, look, guys, work from home. We all go through this stuff. If it's not your dog, it's your cat. If it's not your cat, it's your kids. If it's not your kids, it's something else, right?
Absolutely.
I've got the dog parents combo going on. You have the cat kids combo.
That's right. That's right. But
Crazy.
can you imagine the horrible mistake? And if this was your company and you found out that somebody sent out the W-2s to the entire business?
I will tell you what happened to me once. So my old boss, one of my old bosses, one of my not so favorite old bosses, was doing something, and he was making photocopies of compensation information, and he accidentally left mine on the copier. And the worst person in the department who should have known any of that information got a hold of it. And he came over to me and he's like, I just want to tell you, I completely screwed up. I left it on the computer and such saw it. And I really apologize. And I'm thinking, so you've given me hell for 3 years over mistakes that I can't seem to control because of my dyslexia. And now you know how it feels, dude. You know?
Well, I think that's a good point right there. You don't have a boss, an employee, a colleague, a parent, a spouse, anybody who is not going to make a mistake.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. I don't like it when I make a mistake, but
no, I don't like it when I make a mistake either. And you know, I posted this Reddit article on my Facebook group, and boy, did it generate comments of people, you know, explaining how they had, you know, made similar mistakes. I mean, nobody had made anything that bad, but you know, just mistakes happen, and we can put things in place to limit those mistakes. I mean, one of the things that I'm really trying to embrace this year is the idea of checklists. And in hospitals, they use checklists for everything. And this comes back to a surgeon who figured out that he could have drastically improved outcomes from surgery if he had a formal checklist that he followed. And so hospitals introduced this. And you can introduce these things too. Like, if you're sending out W-2s, you should have somebody else check the file before you hit send.
Yeah.
And that might seem like a completely unreasonable waste of time until something like this happens.
Until everybody's W-2s go out to the entire company, including the president and CEO and everybody in the E-suite.
That's right.
So,
And, back in the day, I used to be in charge of the salary increases for 30,000 employees. And we were doing this on paper.
yeah.
And so every manager would receive a packet with the salary increase amounts for each of their employees. And that's a lot of pieces of paper, that's a lot.
Yep.
Um, and it was a huge pain to put together, but I'll tell you what, we quality controlled the heck out of that.
You have
Every
to.
file was looked through, I don't even remember how many times, 3 or 4 by many different people. We didn't leave this to, the intern and 2 admins to put together. Everybody on the team was there. Our assistant vice president, who was over all of us, she was in there. We all were in there, and we all made sure that it was correct. Did it cost a lot of money in terms of we were fairly highly paid people? I mean, my boss was highly paid, and I was pretty well paid, but it's like when you count the man hours, you're like, well, why didn't you have the $10 an hour temps do this? Well, because the disaster, if it goes wrong, is worth far more than the amount it costs to do this quality control, because we didn't want that kind of error.
Yeah. See, even he's upset about it.
You should be, because it would be a bad thing. And these are mistakes that you can prevent. And also, sometimes when you make a mistake, you got to do the apologizing. You've got to do the dialing it back. And a lot of people, their instinct is just to dig in their heels and be like, this was the decision I made and I'm going to stand by it. I got to give GitHub credit for being like, ooh, maybe this wasn't the best idea. We're going to check this out.
I love it.
And make something new and figure out what you did wrong.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So, so we talked about all the oops things that can happen. So, but let's talk about some good stuff. So let's talk about all the places that you can find all the really awesome tools and everything that we do that can help everybody else. And not to mention what we can do to help get Na Koa outside.
Good luck.
Because it hurts. His dog's got some teeth. So first off, we both have a group that you are welcome to go ahead and join in. Why don't you tell them about your group first, dear?
Well, my group is called Evil HR Lady. And like I said, we discussed all sorts of things. We discussed that story about the W-2s, and the stories that were shared are well worth reading. It is for all HR people and people interested in business and such. You don't have to be an HR person to join. But we do discuss all things HR. We share all of the good HR memes, and it's a really good supportive environment.
That's awesome. And then I have the Next Gen Women in Facebook group where we are all HR people. It is a closed group. It's also moderated, so we also make sure that anybody who's in there is not, sharing information that's not appropriate or not relevant or dead wrong. And if it's dead wrong, we will lovingly help each other to figure out what the correct answer is. Sorry. Oh, that hurt. Anyway, so we have that, but there's also another spot where you can find another group activity, and we are now both on Clubhouse.
We are.
I cannot wait. Huh?
I said, but I'm kind of a slacker on it.
That's all right. You got to take some time getting used to it. But there is something called it's called HR Club. And it is the club that I started on Facebook, on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is like it's actually already, I love this. I'm so happy for the guys that started this. It has already been valuated at $1 billion.
Oh,
yes. As of last week, it was already valued at $1 billion. So It is the next thing that is, it's the next biggest thing in social media. And the only people that can get to it right now are people with Apple and the iOS. It's either you have to either have an iPhone or you have to have an iPad, but you cannot get to it through Android or anything else. They're working on getting that technology in place. But anyway, the HR Club, give me about another week and we're going to start doing some pretty awesome things there. I've been traveling, as you guys have seen, and just need to get a week to get my brain wrapped around being back into my normal environment and dealing with this. So definitely watch that. We are going to be announcing another HR summit coming up. We're looking forward to that happening in March. And yeah, so you can find both of us. You can find Suzanne over on Twitter at the Evil HR Lady. That's the correct handle, right?
Real evil HR lady.
Real HR Lady. Real
evil.
Real evil HR Lady. Oh my gosh.
Find me on Facebook. We're all good.
Yeah, we're fine. And
or
you,
LinkedIn or on my blog.
That's right. And you can find me, the Brenda the HR Lady, on Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse, and Twitter as well. And you can also find each of us by our names over on LinkedIn. So, all right, ma'am. We got another week down. It'll be pretty cool.
Your doggy out.
Yeah, gotta let him out. So you guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and we will talk to you next time without all the hopping up and down.
We'll see you next time. Bye.